what's going on. So I have some brand new data, some brand new information about stimulus checks that I want to cover with you in this video. There's some new data coming out from President Biden. He's trying to get more stimulus checks out. He's trying to get more rebates out. I think the unemployment rate is going to continue to rise up, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on Nancy Pelosi and Congress to finally get more checks out. And I want to cover the latest details for you in this video. There's more important data coming out. I think that they're getting the point right now. They're gonna have to get more checks out to people because people are really struggling right now with the inflation problems happening right now, which I think a lot of it has to do with the printing of all the money and just sending all the money out. But there's going to come a point where they're gonna have to probably help, relieve people because of the fact that they're raising this inflation. So I want to jump into some of the details for you. That way you get notified of all that. So just in the second, Sandal during the pandemic were widely popular. Nearly 4 in 5 voters were in support for the direct payments to American families, and Democrats and Republicans alike rallying behind the policy and increasing rare signs in Washington. Still, the checks were not without controversy among the criticism that there were too many rounds of the payments. They should have not been better targeted to financially struggling Americans, and that the cash lead, at least in part, the runaway inflation we're seeing now, which I agree. I think they should have been more targeted. It shouldn't have just been this blanket check for everybody. Nevertheless, popularity, the payments, and finding that they reduced poverty and promoted spending means that they're likely to become a tool pulled out by the government. In the next recession, which may be coming soon, this is what the experts are saying. I expect stimulus checks to be used again, said Claudia Sam, a macroeconomic policy consultant for the former Federal Reserve. Communists or economists they worked. Stimulus checks are new to a recession tool. In economic downturns, the US government has a number of levers it can pull to keep families spending and shield from the most dire situations. Continued spending is key because if people buying slower dries up, companies respond to lower profits by laying off even more workers, which only deepens and prolongs the hard time. The relief strategies include enhancing unemployment benefits, boosting food stamps, temporarily slashing taxes, and sending out stimulus checks. So you can see a lot of people who are spending a lot of money on the stimulus checks to close utilities, households, paying down debt and rent were the biggest of those stimulus payments that were going out. So the government deployed stimulus checks in 2020 or 2021 and 28 recessions, but the pandemic prompted payments on an unprecedented scale. The pandemic recession was the first time that multiple rounds were sent out. There were 3 rounds of checks. Those who were eligible received up to $1,200 in April 2020, up to $600 in December 2020 or December 21st, and up to $1,400 in March of 2021. That was last year during this time. Here are some of the reasons some and other economists cite making likely similar checks will be sent out again in the event of another recession. The reason some expects stimulus checks to be used again is that they have unique advantages compared to other forms of aid. For one, they get to people quickly, the bottom falls out in a recession. So it's important to blunt the fall. Some said checks do that well. The second and third rounds went out within days. No other relief program came anywhere close. The payments also stimulate the economy in a short amount of time. She said research and the stimulus checks showed that people spend about half of the checks and they do so quickly. So in the end, stimulus checks made a pandemic-era recession less severe. A research scientist recently said at Columbia University the first 2 payments alone were found to lift more than 11.7 million Americans out of poverty, including over 2 million seniors and 3 million children. In the absent consumers' demand would have likely been lower, threatening larger declines in employment. Families spend the cash mostly on food and utilities, so as a result, he expects to see them again if economic shocks put the economy at risk. Then stimulus checks will be certainly a tool the federal government considers applying. So although some people argue that the payments should have been better targeted at those hurting financially, it is the red tape around all the benefits that make their direct payments necessary. Some say some states have active undermined their unemployment insurance by making the eligible narrower and underfunding the administrative systems. If the unemployment insurance and the payroll protection program worked properly, we would not need big stimulus checks, so whether or not the checks are deployed by the government and in another recession may depend on what caused the downturn. If the next crisis triggered by the Federal Reserve interest rate hikes, which aim to curb rising prices, many may argue that sending out cash to Americans could run counter to the Fed's goal and keep inflation out of control. The fact that some believe that high inflation we are experiencing were particularly a consequence of sizable government transfer may mean that there will be less payments in the immediate future. Still, he added, if things get bad enough, that could change. I think it's likely they may be used again in the future recessions. So this whole recession thing looks like they're going to try to pump out more stimulus checks. If they can, they're going to use it as a tool. Definitely good news for a lot of people, and I think they should target very specific individuals for this. The SNAP program, as the price of food continues to rise, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program will continue to send extra money to individuals on top of their monthly benefits. The amount received will vary, but the minimum a household will be entitled to is $95 in addition to their SNAP benefits each month. The amount of extra money eligible families may receive depends on the family size. Throughout the pandemic, SNAP agencies across the United States provide emergency allotments each month. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, which oversees the SNAP program, will continue issuing these payments through till July 15. Through the date could be extended. Some states like Nebraska and Tennessee have already phased out the added benefits, citing that their state-issued emergency or disaster declaration has expired or will expire in current month. The amount of extra money eligible families may receive depends on the family size, so with more than 41 million Americans receiving the SNAP benefits every month, it is crucial that you first register with SNAP in the same state in which you live, with each state processing a different form and process. You must also meet certain bank balances limits in order to be eligible. Households receive that benefits are expected to spend about 30% of their own income on food. The USDA has also stated that the maximum monthly allotment is based on household size. A family of four, for example, has a maximum allotment of $835. These are on the states that are having the additional payments of the SNAP program. Alabama, Alaska, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Georgia, Hawaii, Illinois, Kansas, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. Those are the states. If you're in one of those states, looks like the SNAP programs will continue on moving forward. So I'd like to see what the president's going to do with this. I'd like to see what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, the Democrats, still have the lead in, as well as the votes in the House and the Senate.